All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Chris Longo, Head of Sales and Marketing with AOPEN. Thanks for joining Scaling Your Market Presence and Technology Solutions Regionally. So today we're going to be actually taking a behind-the-scenes look as what it takes to not only scale a business, but recognize the obstacles that can create unnecessary overhead. So today we have a partner with us. Joining is from CoHlab. It's an expert on marketing and presence, along with our own Miles Schofield, who is a technology solutions engineer. So a few housekeeping items that we want to cover before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please send them through the chat or Q&A function. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation to answer all of the questions. We'll also have an on-demand recording, as well as a copy of the slide deck and any other additional materials that are going to be sent out as soon as it's available. After the webinar, we're also going to be collecting the attendance and randomly selecting one winner of a AOPEN gaming monitor and KP180 camera. Our KP180 camera is actually new. Comes with several high-end features, including dual camera stitching, multi-modes. We also have a great feature in there for auto people tracking in case you want to stand up, walk around the room. Same with the auto detection and pan functions. So a lot of great features there. And once again, we'll be having that drawing after the webinar. And the monitor will be delivered right away, and the KP180 will be delivered once it becomes available in market. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and turn the presentation over to Miles Schofield.
Thanks, Chris. So once again, thanks everyone for joining Scaling Your Success webinar. As Chris just mentioned, my name is Miles Schofield, Technology Solutions Engineer, Sales Engineer for AOPEN America. And as he mentioned before, Logan joining us from CohLabs, one of our partners. So this webinar is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a very high-level webinar where we're going to be discussing the factors that prohibit success and support of distributed solutions or a distributed business model, right? So it's something that I'm extremely interested that Logan is going to start us out with, because I don't have a lot of experience in web marketing and he's an expert. And what CohLabs is an expert in is really helping you as you expand your business, open up more coffee shops and pizza shops, or different service type of business. You expand that, how you really target and get as many leads and improve your search ranking. So definitely something that I'm super interested in, and I hope you find useful. The general theme of this webinar is definitely talking about how to expand your business, and not only from the marketing side, but on the tech side too. So I'm going to be talking about all the challenges that as you grow your business, how do you make decisions about how to win deals if you're a small solution provider, what sort of traps you get from hardware, system, and software fragmentation, just talking about fragmentation in general. And then just a very quick brief talk about the primary issues with that are stifling success through scaling. The one sort of coming together is that Logan will show you one of his use cases that we did a shopping mall use case together. CohLabs supports a business called Mulligan's, which is a mini golf solution that you can place in malls and hotels and things like that. So to get us started, Logan's going to start us off with his info about CohLabs first. So take it away, Logan.
Right. I need screen sharing option here first, but I'm very happy to be here. Thank you all for having me. As Miles was saying, my name is Logan Gruber. I'm with Cohlab Digital Marketing. We want to share my screen soon, but I can't yet. Bear with us just a moment. Okay, So again, CoHLab Digital Marketing. My name is Logan Gruber. I'm the copywriter and Google guy at CoHLab. You can see my information there. I also host a series on YouTube of how-tos for websites and digital marketing, which you can see there as well. So what do we do at CoHLab? Well, CoHLab is a website design and development firm. First and foremost, we create websites in WordPress, which is one of the most common content management systems out there. It powers about 35% of the internet, as well as Trustix, which is a CMS that we actually developed in-house from the ground up. We specialize in responsive design, meaning that your website can show up on any screen size and it's still going to look cohesive. We also do e-commerce, and then we handle hosting, maintenance, and support as well. Digital marketing strategies is another part of our strength. I'm going to be talking today a bit about Google search optimization, as well as Google My Business, which is a listing that you can get on Google, which helps you show up on the map as well as in search results. We do Google ad and Facebook ad campaigns, email marketing. We have a review software solution that we also developed, and then social media campaigns. On the custom software side, like I said, we did develop our own CMS, Trustix. We also have done some custom programming. As Miles mentioned, we worked together on a client called Mulligans, which I will go into a bit later. And then for marketing tools, we have our review software that we developed, as well as a free image search to help people find copyright-free images easily without having to surf from site to site to site. Cohlab is in central Minnesota. We're actually a distributed company. So we started a work from home program back in 2018. So the pandemic hasn't affected us in that particular way, but we do have clients across the United States. So we're familiar with serving people everywhere, which I'll get into a little bit later. Again, why Cohlab is? Well, we want to put an end to bad websites, support small to medium-sized businesses, and we combine creative and technical sides of design. So what I wanted to share with you today as far as marketing regionally is creating something called city pages or region pages. This is something we've done for a number of clients. I'm going to show you a couple of cases here. But the essential idea is to, if you want to expand your business outside of your area that you're actually serving with a location, an office, or a branch, you need to show Google relevance, why you're relevant to that new area in order to get shown better in search results with your website. So what we do is we gather as much information as we can that's relevant to that area and applies to your business, such as client reviews from clients that are in that area, photos, videos, case studies, having a description of the team that serves that area if you have a specific sales team or service team, an easy contact form, any industry or news stories, groups that you're part of like Rotary clubs or BNIs or chambers, and then optimizing your website for speed as well as performance, which is something I go over in my YouTube series as well. And then to always be improving that page and always going back to it and adding more as you get more and more clients in that region or that city. On average, we're seeing great results with these city and region pages. Overall, we're seeing users increase by 200% on average year over year, 400% increase in total users to those existing city pages, 10% increase on pages per session on site as well. So that's how many, increase of 10% on the number of pages that they're visiting when they actually come to the site. The first example I'm going to show you is a company called Unique Movers. So this is actually a home moving firm. They move residential and commercial businesses to a new house or to a new office. They're based in Sauk Rapids, which is in central Minnesota. They only have the one office, which is actually more of a warehouse. So they were trying to kind of expand their reach to different localities, but they aren't able to show up in search results very well with only that one office. They're a relative newcomer to the market. The firm only started in 2017. So they're looking to really expand, especially with larger moving firms like Allied and others who have large ad budgets that they can pay to appear in Google search results. So they're fighting for that search engine position. And then we designed their website for them. It was a Trustix-based website, again, that custom CMS that we designed. So we designed their website for them. We also built, as part of the regional marketing campaign, 6 city pages for them. So on these city pages, we provided, as you can see, photos, or they provided the photos, but we put them on the site as a gallery with descriptions, including the city name and, you know, the residential move, commercial move, office move, different keywords. We included their services, very local reviews included on the site, as well as proper schema markup, providing their Google map and their Google My Business for that area, and then having the proper meta information on the page as well, and making sure that it is fast and performs well. So after building out those city pages, that was about 1 year ago, we did a year-over-year comparison for new users to the site. So we saw an increase of 160% in new users, 225% increase in total users, and just a 7% increase in the number of pages people visit, likely because we have the contact form right on that page. So people are able to contact right from there. For geographic results, for this client, we saw over 200% increase in new users from their target city of St. Cloud, over 200% increase in users from another target city of Sartell, 250% increase for Sauk Rapids, 270% for St. Joseph, and over 500% increase in new users year over year for the city of Waite Park as well. The business results for this case, business has really boomed for them. They're expanding regionally across the state now instead of just in the St. Cloud, greater St. Cloud area. They're expanding into Brainerd, Alexandria, the Twin Cities you may be more familiar with, Minneapolis and St. Paul, as well as Fargo. And they're rebuilding the website currently with us in the WordPress platform because they want to add e-commerce as well as expand those city pages. So we're going to take the older city pages of areas where they're now well known in, like St. Joseph, St. Cloud, Waite Park, redirect those to the home page and now include other city pages for areas where they also do not have an office space, such as Brainerd, Alexandria, Minneapolis. So this is a great use case for if you do not have an actual office space available for you and you want to be able to show up in search results and get more people to your site for specific keywords. The next example I'm going to share with you is St. Croix Hospice. This is an example where they do have branches across actually different states. So we needed to kind of take a slightly different approach to get them found in search results. So St. Croix Hospice is a little different because it is a medical provider. They're an in-home hospice provider. They're based in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And when we started working with them, they had 22 branches in 3 states. So they're a relative newcomer to the market still, to the hospice provider in 2012. So there were larger hospice providers, national ones who were there before. So they had to fight for their search engine position. And we built their website for them in WordPress. So at the start, we built 22 branch pages for them at the start, eventually expanding that to 36 branch pages in 6 states total. Again, for this one, they actually physically have a branch there. So we're able to do a Google My Business map for each branch, as well as the exact address and local phone number for those branches, a calendar of events that are happening at that branch. And then we weren't able to include things like specific, reviews from specific patients or, family members of patients, I should say. It is hospice, due to privacy concerns. But this is what we were able to do for them. Now, seeing how they were able to increase for organic search results year over year again, a 33% increase in new users to the site, 32% increase in total users to the site, and a 9% increase in the pages they visited per session. Geographically, I took a look at a few of the newer cities that they had expanded into over the past 2 years. 15% increase for Omaha, Nebraska, 39% in new users for Lincoln, 85% for Topeka, and Kansas City, 145% increase year over year. So for them, business again has boomed. They are expanding. They continue to expand actually. And even this week, we added new county service areas to some of the states. They've added branches in Wisconsin and Iowa, and they, over the past couple of years here, have expanded into Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri as well. So remember, when you're working with, expanding your region, use the assets that you already have. Again, those are, your client reviews for or near areas where you want to expand into. Photos and videos that you're able to get from your clients, or if you're able to send out a photographer, projects and case studies that you can put together on those clients, description of your company and team, make contacting you easy. Put the contact form right on the page. Any industry news stories, industry groups that you're a part of, make sure you set up that Google My Business page if you actually do have an office in that area. Verify that. That's very, very important. And then always be improving. Come back to that page as you're able to get it properly set up. Pro tips, choose no more than 10 focus cities at a time if you don't have branch locations. So if you have, like St. Croix Hospice, you have branch locations, you can set up a page for every branch. Google understands that you do serve that area. If you only have, 1 or 2 offices, but you want to attack other regions, keep it under 10 areas that you're focusing on. If you make too many, Google is going to see it as a form of spam and start to dock your website. The cities can be rotated over time as your presence grows. So as I mentioned earlier with unique movers, they're expanding into new areas now. So we're going to take some of the old pages, redirect them to the home page, and then build the new pages out so that we stay under that 10 mark. Evaluate your entire website for search ranking factors. Using a Google Lighthouse tool, you can audit your website to find out what's slowing it down, what's keeping it from performing well, and make sure that you're keeping it up to date. Make sure that on your images or screenshots or videos, you're including alt text on those so that Google knows what they're about, because otherwise Google just sees it's an image. Optimize your images for speed. If you're using WordPress, you can actually get plugins that'll cut down your image sizes to make your page load faster. And then that Google My Business listing is extremely important if you have the physical location. I also wanted to go into a custom software client example. This is how I'm associated with AOPEN. We worked with Mulligan's Mini Golf. They are provide self-serve kiosks and mini golf courses. So they have multiple different sizes of course that they have, as well as they provide them in indoor and outdoor settings, airports, skating rinks, universities. So these can go pretty much anywhere. We work with them on the software and the design, but we needed a partner who could work in hardware. So we developed the program to allow the customers to select the number of clubs in different sizes and at custom prices. And then we also were able to run the APIs to dispense the club, get the pricing, and then when the user puts in their email address on the screen, it sends them the receipt right to their email. So that was our development work, but we needed that hardware partner, and that's where AOPEN came in. So like I said, these are indoor-outdoor installations. We needed something that would be able to handle a wide range of temperatures, as well as withstand rough use from up to hundreds of users every day. So that was a big decision to make. AOPEN had the AICU remote management, so this way we don't have to have somebody go out there once a week and check it. They are able to automatically report on the screen vitals and send that over to Mulligan's. And then tech support. We had to re-image the machine quite a number of times, and AOPEN was able to quickly get those back into service for us. So, and with that, I'm going to send it back over to Miles.
Thanks, Logan. So to finish the connection, the Mulligan's connection is really about, we had this shared client, and CohLabs was able to help them where they didn't have expertise, in this case, web marketing, whereas AOPEN as he just mentioned, we're able to help them with, the hardware side of things. Our hardware solution teams recommending what type of screen they should use, what type of OS, what sort of support they could potentially use and add, and sort of serviceability options. So yeah, that's really what I'm going to talk about today, is sort of a lot of the decisions. Number one, that AOPEN helps small, medium, large business make those types of decisions about hardware. And number two, about the major issues that I see with all the decisions have to be made about these types of solutions, and how we at AOPEN address them. So thanks so much for your presentation, Logan. So to get started on the AOPEN side, when we think of small, medium, large businesses deploying technology across franchises, across different clients, the number one killer is fragmentation, which is just a really generic term for when you have things deployed. It's basically eventually things are going to diverge from a single configuration. So easiest way to think about it is when you're looking to support or access, let's say the iPhone market. So if you look at the iPhone user base in 2018, you can see that it's extraordinarily fragmented. If I told you to make a solution for one of these devices, let's say you choose the X, which is all the way on the right. Well, if you make a solution that only works on the X, well, good luck. You're only accessing 12% of the market. And you'd be like, well, everyone who has a 6 is potentially going to buy an X and upgrade soon. But it just becomes, these sort of fragmented markets has become sort of an issue in terms of how do you offer your solution, how much is there backwards compatibility, how do you support all these different platforms and things like this. iPhone obviously makes it super easy because they're responsible for the backwards compatibility in a lot of cases, right? You're usually going to get, with the big brands, you're usually going to get some leeway, but the big brands are expensive. There's not a whole lot of iPhone solutions that are deployed as distributed edge solutions or at franchises and things like that, because to get all that extra support and compatibility, it costs money. So common cases of what causes technology fragmentation is, of course, any type of update to the product, the software. There's a million different types of updates that may or may not be pushed to any sort of devices, your point of sale, your signage. It's very difficult to manage all those things. And we'll talk about this, how all those decisions are made and what actually fragments and what it can cause. EOL, of course. So between on the hardware side, if you try and deploy on an iPhone, let's say you wrote your solution back in 2015 on the 6, right? And then, well, now there's no 6s left. You got to deploy on a 7. And then now there's no 7s left. You got to deploy on an X or an 8, right? So you're basically, if you choose iPhone as a solution platform, like frontline user, whatever, then you're actually forced to devote tech to making sure that your product works on these updated platforms, which, is great if you have infinite budget for engineers. So you can sort of see how, even an extremely generic use case like this can cause issues. Customization, of course, we'll talk about that. Obviously, if you need to change something about the product, and there's a million things to change in terms of your solution, that's going to cause fragmentation if you don't track it. And of course, no support plan. So if you do make a solution, an iPhone solution, and a lot of people just sort of cross their fingers. A lot of solution providers just sort of cross their fingers and are like, well, I hope it works on the 8, because that's what the customer wants to use, and I don't want to turn down business. So I'm going to talk about these sort of things, these decisions that people make in depth, and what sort of business ramifications that they cause. So in terms of the stack, which is stuff that's involved in technology, like point of sale or signage or a Mulligan's kiosk, I'm mostly going to focus on the bottom 3 things, or in this case, the top 3 things of the stack: hardware, system, software, right? Hardware is basically, just I was talking about the iPhone example, it's the physical configuration of the device. Yes, and is a Gen 3 i5 from Intel the same as a Gen 8 i5 from Intel? Theoretically, chipsets should be compatible. Your software should run the same, but as we know, that's not all the case across hardware other than processors, right? We know that physical configuration matters a ton when it comes to peripherals and chipsets and graphics and things like that. So that, you know, hardware is the first one I want to cover. System, the main things I'm going to include in system is, of course, the differences between the OS on how they try and solve this issue, and part of the other types of system files, firmware, BIOS, and reg, which can also have huge ramifications if you don't control it. And then the last one is just sort of to talk about how software is the easiest to manage in theory, because there's such a huge network. So what a lot of times you'll get from solution providers is that they'll know absolutely everything about software, but the same types of systems that are in software just do not exist in hardware systems, which is sort of why you get a lot of these solutions that aren't deployed properly, and a lot of these solutions that aren't created properly is because they just don't have the right people and the right resources and the right expertise. And that's sort of why AOPEN's here. So let's talk about hardware fragmentation. First one, I mentioned already, EOL product cycle. Consumer products like the iPhone have a fixed life cycle. So they build them and they sell them. They basically predict how many the market's going to have. So if you build a solution on one, then you're basically, you know, hope that it's around as long as the people are using your solution, right? The second is that, you know, iPhones and other sort of major platforms, you usually can have, they have a lot of compatibility, transparency, right? And some companies do take responsibility for that. But if you use a cheaper platform or a more proprietary platform, no such luck, right? And I'll talk about, when I talk about the OSs, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And of course, choice. So the reason why I wanted to bring up choice is, you know, let's say you make a kiosk for self-ordering for Burger King, right? But the problem is that, you know, maybe Burger King wants a $5,000 kiosk, but then you don't, no other customer is going to buy it at 5,000, so you need to make $1,000 version too. But that means you need to program twice as much because you can't use the same hardware, right? And then, well, maybe you want a $3,000 kiosk as well too. So do you support 3 products? So choice, just basically trying to access different price points in the market, you know, trying to offer your product on like an Intel Atom based system or an SoC, and then a Celeron, and then an i5, have the features be different and the price points be different. That can naturally just overload your tech team. You know, solution providers, especially software solution providers, they all want to work on absolutely everything, but it's a pain. It's a big pain to control, and that's what causes a lot of issues in the field, right? Targeting multiple products can create support gaps and obviously a huge tech budget. All right, so you know, what does AOPEN do to address this issue for our partners? So we already talked about the consumer product cycle. They keep banging them out every year like clockwork, and they're only available for a fixed amount of time. The major solution is that AOPEN, our products, you know, usually have a 4 to 5 year life cycle. And if you have certain product support schedules that you need to make sure, you know, hey, does this thing have a 5-year warranty? Can my customer run this, you know, until 2026 and things like that? So will it be available? Can I buy this product now? Will it also be available in 2026 and things like that? Yeah, we're definitely there to help and answer those questions and make sure that if you do want to stick with one platform, that it is available for an extremely long time. So you don't have to, you're not forced to be like, okay, this is the new iPhone, I got to make sure and devote a ton of tech testing to it and things like that. The second one is system fragmentation, which there's a number of challenges to control. Because it's so low level, the options are very different. But the first thing I wanted to talk about in terms of just general OS framework management, I'm going to get into the OSs individually, is what sort of issues fragmentation can just cause on the system side, right? Main one that you should all know about, we all remember this, 1/3 of all Americans' Social Security numbers got leaked because you know, the Apache announced that there was a security vulnerability and a patch available on March 7th, and then Equifax didn't patch it until a few months later. And the hackers just were like, okay, and they surfed for all the servers that weren't protected, and were easily able to see that the servers hadn't been patched, and were able to access all that data. So just delaying a single patch for 3 months caused one of the biggest data leaks in history. And that was on an extremely enterprise control system, right? It's not like Equifax servers were distributed in like a whole bunch of random people's houses. It was a server farm, right? And those centralized server farms and computers are the easiest to manage. So if this happened in an extremely controlled environment, you can only imagine the issues and challenges faced with the, what would happen if Equifax servers were distributed across the entire globe, where you couldn't just go and patch them directly, and you had to use a whole bunch of other different techniques. So in terms of when you're a solution provider and trying to think about patching your system, upgrading the OS, they're all different. And it's an extremely difficult choice for solution providers. And they usually just stick with one because AOPEN, our strategy for this is that we just want to make devices across the board that last a long time. So we make Windows, Linux, Chrome, and Android devices. And because we know as a solution provider, they're each going to choose a different one based off of their preferences. So why do solution providers, choose their kiosk to run on Windows versus Linux? So just to go through them really quick, Windows, of course, supports everything at the highest price. It has great forwards and backwards capabilities. It's going to be around forever. The challenges really with Windows are if you have a lower cost solution, right? We all know how difficult it is to get Windows to slow down on the updates, right? If you deploy a kiosk on Windows or a point of sale on Windows and it's constantly saying, hey, register, create an account, update to Windows. The low cost options aren't there. The enterprise ones really aren't there. So a lot of solution providers either write it themselves, and they have to really develop that own technology on Windows themselves. With Linux, you have a different starting point, right? It's extremely low cost, unlike Windows, but your support options are extremely limited, right? So a lot of solution providers that use Linux usually have Linux experts on their team. You really can't do it because if there's an issue with your software, there's not a whole lot of options. If you win a major Burger King deal as a solution provider and they have an issue, there's no one to yell at. What are you going to do? Go in the Linux forums and yell at some people? It's not going to happen, right? So you have to have experts who know how to solve these type of problems if you're going to expand your business successfully. Chrome OS, the next one, AOPEN is very familiar with Chrome OS. And the really interesting thing about Chrome OS is that it's fragmented by default or by choice. What that means is that if you have 2 Chromebooks, both running version 73 of Chrome OS, that's technically different OSs. They have a different build number. Google did this, we're not super sure why, but Google did this because they want to have the OS specifically custom to every single Chrome OS device that gets released. So if you notice when you use Chrome devices, there's not a whole lot of extra buttons or choices because all that UI customization is part of the fragmentation of the OS, right? In terms of OS management and firmware support, that's where the Chrome OS really wins in the education market because it's the cheapest solution by far. It's first party, it's extremely secure, and it just makes stuff super easy. In terms of their cloud-based management system just pushes the OS and the firmware to the device. And of course, they are moving towards the purely web-based model, which means compatibility should be really, really good. It's obvious not if you're familiar with Chrome OS, but that's where they're moving towards. Last one, of course, is why hasn't Android dominated these types of solutions? And Android is another risk because Google doesn't directly support point of sales and other non-mobile. Google really treats Android as a mobile-only platform. So there's not a whole lot of, if you're going to make your solution on it, like a temperature scanning station or a Mulligan's kiosk, you're basically responsible for everything in terms of security, updates, maintenance, all that stuff. So once again, you have to know what you're doing to use a cheaper option, right? Usually the way the story goes is that if you want to save money somewhere, you're going to have to make it up, you're going to have to pay for it somewhere else. And that's usually the story with Android, is that it's not an ideal solution, but the price and the fact that it's very well documented, it's extremely popular platform, so there's lots of information and resources about it, but you do take that risk as a company by deploying on it. So I put this slide in here just for me. This is one of my favorite issues, because I did work in manufacturing for years and years and years. And the bane of my existence was really fragmentation versus by registry. And it's really about the issue where if you have some sort of mechanical system, each one has to be calibrated independently. Like the servos on the robotic arms, each require different calibration files and calibration procedures, and all the data is different. So the major challenge in the field is, where do you store that data? Does that data cross-tool, cross-world matter in terms of outliers? And how do you control it, back it up on an individual basis? And so what we used to do back when I used to work in manufacturing is just, you'd have to take a stack of DVDs out of the manufacturing environment every month, right? I literally had hundreds of stacks of DVDs on my desk just from going in and backing up all the calibration data. Now, you may say, like, hey, it's 2020, how come they just don't put cloud backups on all these industrial machines? And yeah, the industry, manufacturing industry always is further behind in those types of solutions, just because it's too much risk, right? Healthcare and manufacturing, you cannot afford to have issues with non-localized data and cloud backup systems and things like that. To give you an example, the manufacturing area, the $6 billion manufacturing area was brought down for an entire day because someone put a corrupted USB stick in one of the machines, and it basically screwed up the entire network. So yeah, there's severe issues with trying to get these new types of technology into the manufacturing areas. So how does AOPEN approach system fragmentation? So from the software side and system side, you can usually get a lot of information out of like a Windows box and an Android box and things like that. So AOPEN we want to dig in and try and give our devices a little bit more data. So we have a physical module called an AICU control unit. So it's basically looks like a little stick, like a RAM module. And the whole purpose is that it is able to sit in the device and give you extra information, like direct setting the restart timers and the BIOS updates and things like that. And the next stage of that, so this is all what AOPEN's developing. The major thing that we're working on is an additional module to do out-of-band recovery. And the reason why that's so important is because the major challenge, if you have like a kiosk out in the field, if there is some sort of hard crash, like a blue screen of death, there's no way to recover that without going and hitting the button, right? And so AOPEN's developing a cost-effective system to prevent a truck roll in this case, right? And also other security systems, like if you have a device or edge computing or a kiosk, and you can lock down all the ports to avoid that sort of situation where someone brings in a corrupted USB stick and all that sort of stuff. So we just want to manage, take away a lot of the headaches associated with making hardware decisions and how to manage hardware. All right, let's talk about software. Let me check my time really quick. All right, we're golden. So software, this is the one that's the most controlled, right? The world sort of runs off of software. Hardware is sort of ubiquitous, but software to me, compared to other things, is just insanely complex in terms of the way that the development flow and the control is managed. So just to give you an idea, if you're not familiar with software development or the choices that CTOs of solution companies have to make about choosing and developing software, I just put these two examples in here to help you understand what it's sort of like. So to give you an idea, this is a 2013 picture of the public Linux distro DevNet, and you can see that this is just the kernel, right? of the public Linux distro, and you can see that, you know, there's thousands of people. Each one of these dots is an individual file contributing to the kernel, and it's being worked on by thousands of people, and then somehow it all comes together and manages to produce an operating system, right? And managing that many people on that many files, on that many branches, and all contributing to the same build is sort of the magic of open source and software development management tools, right? So you can see how amazingly complicated typical dev and dev flow is. So the right one is what everyone should understand or have seen before. It's the general software development. You have a major release on the top, and then you have the quick fixes, and then you have the development branches, and then you have the dev branches with XYZ features, eventually merge back into the primary branch, right? So all of this stuff, there's a lot of products out here, and it just makes avoiding fragmentation very seamless. So when it comes down to developing software, it's all extremely clear. But the issue that we see in our business in particular is that the software, and I've talked about this in webinars in the past, is really the easy to solve solutions and the hard to solve solutions. So it's effectively, the market is basically splitting on how to solve different types of solutions. The one on the left is basically lightweight, right? The easiest way which these types of solutions will be solved in the future is basically an extremely lightweight device that's extremely generic, and there's zero unique local data, and it's effectively just running a web page. And this is the whole Google sort of cloud-centric. Microsoft obviously is moving cloud-centric as well too. And it's all about 100% controlled and automated because there shouldn't be any really difference between the environment on any particular device that you choose. And you know, you're no longer ever going to have to download applications onto your cell phone, right? That's always a barrier because effectively web pages will become applications. So those sort of strategies will hopefully remove a lot of the barriers for why you don't see more edge computing resources, is because these new types of solutions solve a lot of those issues. On the one on the right, those are the tough ones, right? The heavy solutions, no one's come up with a good solution for those yet. They all require a lot of tech overhead. And what do I mean by heavy solution? Well, how do you, once again, how do you have your web page control the servers that spit out the golf clubs, and manage all these things about the Mulligan's kiosk? It's hard to find a good system that is 100% easy to manage that can do all that stuff. So once again, you're always going to have to for the time being, have to rely on either third-party in-house resources, especially if you want to work on Android or Linux or things like that. And you definitely, if you use open source resources, then once again, if any of your clients have problems, it's 100% your fault, and you need to have solutions on that. So, I've mentioned in the past that different companies are trying to solve these heavy solution issues, but there's just not a lot of great products. There's a lot of products out there, but not a lot of industry leading products at the lower price range, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of software fragmentation. Now, the second thing I wanted to cover aside from fragmentation is just the general concept of how a lack of a plan of scaling can sort of stifle your growth, right? So the number one thing that we see here at AOPEN with our software partners is that, our solution provider partners, is that they're in an RFP for a major deal, like a big kiosk with a big brand, and they can't even deploy the POC, right? And when you screw up the POC, let's say you're going after a 50,000 unit deal and you can't even deploy 100 kiosks, then there's no way you're going to win that POC, right? And so as a small solution provider, that's usually why you lose deals, is because you have no plan to succeed whatsoever. And so it just makes winning those deals impossible. And even if you do win, you're sort of digging your own grave because you may end up in some sort of impossible solution, right? So those are the biggest pitfalls. No fragmentation plan. You know, what happens if you do win and you suddenly have to change and use a number of different platforms for that the customer requests, right? No failure plan, right? This we hear a lot, right? You know, I included this image on the left of a Raspberry Pi. You know, a lot of software people are just like, hey, I mean, Raspberry Pi is 50 bucks. It'll run anything. You know, and then they'll win a deal, and then, you know, the things just start failing but like crazy. And what do you do about it, right? You know, you have no ability to convince your customer that this product is suitable for where they're using it in the distributed solution, and that the product can perform in those sort of environments. And that's why people come to us and say, hey, you know, I was using this stuff just to test it out and it worked, but clearly I need something that works better for the environment and in the support structure that's available to this particular customer, right? The one on the left is just, you know, the Raspberry Pi, and they're like, oh, well, you can always just slap a huge fan on it and pray, right, that it doesn't break, right? So these are a lot of extremely common problems. No logistics plan, right? And the main thing I want to point out is, yes, SI, if you're a solution provider, yes, SIs can solve all these problems for you. However, you need to have those relationships and that connection with the SIs in order to take advantage of that, right? So I'm mostly, you know, talking about these types of decisions for smaller solution providers or medium solution providers who don't have immediate access to an enterprise level SA that can literally wave their hand and take care of all this stuff. One of the interesting things about some SIs to me is that they can use like cheaper hardware for sure, because they have support plans. So they can deploy like Raspberry Pis and sticks and SoC-based systems, and they can expect for them to fail a lot, but their pricing and their support plan is all based off of that. They have it all figured out. They're not just saying, hey, I'm a small solution provider, go ahead and install 5,000 of these. Maybe they'll break, maybe they won't. I have no idea how to fix them, right? So the last thing is, of course, on the list, no software support plan. This can cause massive issues. One of the biggest issues we've seen here at AOPEN is one of our solution providers used some random bit of open source code. And like I said, to win a major deal, and yeah, there's no one to yell at. So you need to make sure that you have the correct, if something goes wrong in that part of the code, you sort of need enough tech resources to fix the issue. So the main way AOPEN helps in these cases is through a number of services. We help you choose the right hardware based on what customer you're dealing with and your goals and what it would take to succeed. We can do all the global warranty service and help with the device service and manage, and obviously help with the logistics services as well. So how AOPEN works with a lot of our solution providers is that really pre-packed, make sure you don't have to open the box, everything's prepped and imaged and shows up exactly where you want it to for your customer with your solution installed on it. Everything's good to go so that you don't have to, you know, take it into your office, you know, have your engineer working on imaging devices, which is a waste of his time, stuff like that. So we try and optimize scaling of your solution success as you build it. So that's primarily how AOPEN approaches this problem. To wrap things up today, how's my time? No problem. Here we go, conclusions. So as we heard from Logan, you know, if you're one of the key challenges when you have an expanding business that is taking over additional locations and regions, definitely contact CoHlab if you want advice on how to develop a web marketing strategy. If you don't have those resources, they're out there for you, right? And it's crucial. You can see how much those page rankings went up and how many extra eyeballs that they got on those particular pages. Second thing, of course, is that making tech solutions is extremely difficult. I hope from my slides you really got the sense that it's sort of a mess, and it is, especially when you're trying to do things cheaply. And we're here to help people like the CohLabs and the Mulligan project just make the right choice. Give them information about oh, you should use this, or this is hard to manage but it's cheaper, blah blah blah, all that sort of info. And additionally, the last point I just made is that AOPEN can definitely support your solution as it succeeds. We can deliver globally if you end up winning RFPs in other regions. So as long as you're on our hardware, we can make sure that we can package up however you like. We can even change the packaging if you want to be more brand centric and things like that. But it's really about partnering and delivering and making sure that you show up really nicely in your POC, and you prove to your customers that you can have the ability to deploy if you win the entire RFP. So, all right, that is it for me today. Once again, thank you for joining me. So I'll hand it back over to Chris for some questions.
All right, thank you, Miles. It looks like we're actually out of time, so we're going to want to thank everybody for participating in today's webinar and joining us. Once again, we also want to thank Logan of CohLab. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, you can email either one of us, info@aopen.com. We can also reach out to Logan so we can answer any additional questions that you may have. And also to let you know, the content and recording from today will be sent out along with the winner for the 27-inch AOPEN gaming monitor and the KP180 camera. So keep an eye open for those, and thanks again for joining us. I hope everybody has a great day.